June 2nd, 1944, RAF Northolt, west of London. Rain taps against the tin roof of a dimly lit operations hut. Cigarette smoke hangs in the air like a low fog. Inside, a dozen British wireless operators sit hunched over their radios, hands steady, eyes alert, waiting for the signal that will begin the greatest deception operation in military history. A single red bulb glows above the doorway, casting long shadows across maps pinned to the walls. Thick black arrows mark where the Germans think the Allies will strike, the Pas de Calais. Thin, almost invisible pencil lines indicate the truth. Normandy. At a desk near the far corner, Colonel David Strangeways, commander of the deception unit known as R-Force, adjusts his uniform, flicks ash from his cigarette, and listens to the storm rumbling outside. A messenger hands him a slip of paper, encrypted orders authorizing the launch of Operation Fortitude South. He nods once. "All right," he says quietly. "Light up the airwaves." You can hear it before you see it. Radios crackling to life, the room buzzing as operators begin tapping out the first strands of a spiderweb designed to span all of Western Europe. They aren't transmitting troop movements, supply routes, or bombardment schedules. They're transmitting lies, elaborate ones, coordinated ones. Lies so precise and convincing that they will reshape German strategy, draw their Panzer divisions away from Normandy, and hold them there for weeks after D-Day. Outside, beyond the barbed wire perimeter, engines rumble. Trucks loaded with inflatable Sherman tanks, nothing more than rubber bladders shaped to look like steel, are hauled under tarps to their staging ground. Nearby, carpenters hammer together wooden silhouettes of landing craft, crude but believable when viewed from a Luftwaffe reconnaissance aircraft. It all feels theatrical, absurd, almost comically fake. And yet the stakes could not be higher, because in a few days, the greatest amphibious invasion ever attempted will depend on whether these illusions, balloons, plywood, forged documents, scripted radio chatter, can convince Adolf Hitler that the real invasion will smash into the Pas de Calais, the narrowest point between Britain and France. For a moment, the wind dies. The room goes quiet. Then a door bursts open, letting in the smell of wet earth and aviation fuel. A drenched figure steps inside. Agent Garbo, real name Juan Pujol Garcia, the most valuable double agent the Allies have ever turned. His coat drips onto the wooden floor, but he pays no attention. He moves straight to Strangeways, handing over a coded report. "Berlin has acknowledged my last transmission," Pujol says, wiping water from his brow. "They believe fully in the 1st U.S. Army Group." Strangeways allows himself a thin smile. FUSAG, the fictional army group commanded, on paper, by General George S. Patton. An entire ghost army, conjured out of thin air, existing only in radio. Traffic, fake camps, and the minds of German intelligence officers who desperately want to believe it. Lightning flashes outside, illuminating rows of inflatable tanks lined up like giants waiting in the dark. Inside the hut, operators continue broadcasting fake logistics, phony supply requests, counterfeit ammunition reports, and entirely fabricated messages about the arrival of non-existent divisions. Every transmission has been timed to mimic real American radio discipline. Every unit designation is chosen to feed into German intelligence assumptions. Every signal is part of a carefully orchestrated performance. Operation Fortitude isn't just a plan, it's a symphony. And tonight, the orchestra has begun to play. Strangeways leans over a table, fingers tracing a line across the map of France. "If all goes well," he murmurs, "Rommel will keep his reserve armor locked at Calais. When the landings begin, Normandy will be lightly held." Pujol nods. He will believe what he already expects to believe. That is the center of gravity, the psychological hinge on which the entire deception swings. Hitler and his high command are convinced that Calais is the logical landing point. Stronger ports, shorter distance, direct route to Germany. The Allies are not giving them new beliefs. They are reinforcing the ones they already hold. But outside, on the wet tarmac, pilots of the RAF Deception Squadron climb into modified aircraft loaded not with bombs, but with metallic foil strips. Window, they call it. Strips designed to clutter German radar screens and suggest massive formations heading toward Calais. The pilots know they're flying into danger without the glamour of combat. Their mission is quieter, stranger, and in many ways riskier. Back in the hut, Strangeways notices a tremble in the floor as engines roar to life. The planes thunder into the storm, their propellers kicking mist into glowing arcs under the floodlights. Pujol turns to him. If even one piece of this fails, we can't afford failure. Strangeways finishes. Every man landing at Normandy depends on us. Thunder rolls overhead like distant artillery. Rain streaks the windows, blurring the outline of the ghost army outside. You can feel the weight of what's being attempted, the scale of deception, the audacity of it. Britain isn't just preparing for the invasion of Europe, it's rewriting the battlefield inside the minds of the German High Command. Tonight is the night the phantom fist of Fusag becomes real. Tonight is the night Hitler's greatest blind spot is about to be exploited. And at the heart of it, in this storm-battered hut filled with static and tension, the first chapter of the largest deception operation in military history begins. Rain still clings to the air the next morning as the fog lifts over the English countryside. From above, if a German reconnaissance pilot were somehow drifting over Kent in this grey dawn, the fields would look alive with the unmistakable silhouettes of armored divisions gathering for an invasion. Dozens of Sherman tanks, rows of trucks, artillery, fuel dumps, canvas tents stretching across the horizon, except none of it is real. On the ground, a corporal from the Royal Engineers kicks the side of a Sherman tank and it wobbles like a child's balloon. Because that's exactly what it is. An inflatable tank, anchored to the mud with ropes and wooden stakes. A half-inflated M4 lies collapsed nearby, looking like a deflated parade float rather than a war machine. "Oi, get that turret straight!" he shouts as two soldiers wrestle with the rubber contraption, trying to align it before pumping in more air. The men grumble, soaked to the bone, but they know what's at stake. Every angle, every shadow must look right from 1,000 feet up. To the east, rows of trucks, real ones, trundle along the roads, towing long wooden frames shaped like landing craft. Once positioned near the coastline, they'll form the backbone of a fake amphibious staging area. Crews smear mud across them, roughening their surfaces so that, from the air, they appear weathered and in constant use. Nearby, a team of American signal officers sits beneath a camouflage net, stringing wire through portable radio sets. They aren't transmitting anything yet, but their orders are precise. Begin broadcasting the moment the Luftwaffe's reconnaissance aircraft are detected heading toward England. Their job is to fill the airwaves with chatter from the fictional 1st U.S. Army Group, movements, orders, supply concerns, and all the noise of a massive army preparing for an invasion that will never come. And overseeing all of it, adjusting plans with the precision of a stage director, is Colonel Strangeways. He walks across the muddy clearing toward a large model map laid out beneath an awning. Officers stand around it, some sipping tea, others poring over the details. Small colored flags mark fake deployments, green ones for armored divisions, red for infantry, blue for airborne. Each placement corresponds to what German intelligence already expects to find. Strangeways clears his throat. "Gentlemen," he begins, tapping the map with a wooden pointer, "we're not just deceiving the Germans about when we'll invade. We're deceiving them about who we are." He gestures to a group of insignia boards nearby, patches for units that don't exist, divisions that are nothing more than ink on forged documents. The Germans know the Americans favor Patton. They fear him. So we've made him the commander of Fusag. He allows himself a slight smirk. They'll be watching Calais like hawks. We just need to give them something to see. At that moment, a jeep rolls onto the field, splashing mud as it stops. A young MI5 courier jumps out, salutes, and hands Strangeways a sealed envelope. He rips it open. Latest intercept from Ultra, German intelligence. They've received Pujol's newest report. Fusag is gathering vast resources. Patton is preparing for the knockout blow at Calais. Strangeways folds the paper and tucks it into his pocket, his expression unreadable. Good, he mutters. They're believing the picture we're painting. But deception at this level isn't just about props and radio signals. It's about the human element, the double agents scattered across Britain, each one feeding Berlin fragments of a reality that doesn't exist. Among them, Agent Brutus, exiled Polish officer Roman Czerniawski, Agent Tate, the Norwegian fisherman turned spy, and of course, Agent Garbo, Pujol himself, who commands a network of entirely imaginary sub-agents. These spies aren't simply reporting false troop movements. They're weaving a narrative, a slow, consistent build-up of evidence that portrays Calais as the true invasion target. And the Abwehr, desperate, overconfident, and often dangerously naive, is swallowing it whole. At a safe house in London, Pujol sits at a desk littered with coded messages. He dictates his latest dispatch to Berlin, his voice calm, deliberate, almost theatrical. Significant movement of armored forces near Dover. American officers discussing an impending strike. Coastal batteries near Calais noted as the primary target. He signs it with his coded designation. The transmission leaves Britain, bounces across Europe, and within hours lands on the desk of Hitler's intelligence chiefs, who immediately forward it to the Führer himself. Back in Kent, Luftwaffe reconnaissance finally breaks through the weather, a single Ju-88 slicing through the clouds. Cameras click rapidly as the pilot sweeps over the coastline. His photographs, when developed, will show all the right things. Landing craft lined along the beaches, vehicles gathering in fields, tents packed with troops, fuel depots swelling with supplies. He doesn't know the vehicles are rubber. He doesn't know the landing craft are wooden frames. He doesn't know the troops are mannequins, training dummies, and staged patrols. He just knows he has seen what he expected to see. And that is the beating heart of fortitude. Give the enemy the picture they already believe is there. Strangeways watches the distant aircraft circle back toward the channel. Perfect timing, he murmurs. Now let them interpret it however they wish. As the sun finally breaks through the clouds, illuminating the fake army sprawled across the English countryside, it feels almost surreal. An invasion force that doesn't exist, becoming more convincing by the day. And in Berlin, the trap is beginning to close. The morning haze settles over London like a thin veil as the city wakes, but inside a cramped MI5 office near St. James's Park, the air is already electric. The smell of ink, tobacco, and sweat mixes with the low hum of encrypted typewriters. This is the beating nerve center of the IRT, double-cross system, the web of agents whose lies have slowly become the backbone of Operation Fortitude. A clerk rushes past with a stack of decoded German transmissions. Another pins photographs of German troop dispositions onto a corkboard. Every scrap of intelligence helps the Allies understand what the Germans believe and what they need to believe next. At the far end of the room, hunched over a desk strewn with cigarette butts and notepads, sits Thomas Argyle, Tar Robertson, the mastermind of MI5's double-agent program. His tie is crooked, his hair unkempt, but his mind is razor-sharp. He thumbs through the latest message from the Abwehr. He exhales slowly. Berlin just praised Pujol's accuracy, he says, barely containing his amazement. They're calling him one of their most reliable assets. The room chuckles darkly. If only the Abwehr knew that their prized agent spent his evenings drinking tea in a London safe house, fabricating reports with the creativity of a novelist writing his next thriller. Nearby, Pujol, Agent Garbeau, sits calmly with a cup of black coffee. He's thin, pale, and perpetually exhausted, but there's a spark in his eyes when he works. In front of him lies a map of southern England covered with coded notes and meticulously plotted fictional agents. Garbeau's network doesn't exist. His sub-agents are imaginary. His reports are lies, grounded in just enough truth to feel real. But Berlin believes every word. An MI5 officer leans over his shoulder. "They bought your report about the supply bottlenecks near Dover?" "Oh, yes," Pujol replies softly, almost with a hint of pride. "They think the Americans are struggling to get sufficient fuel for Patton's armor. It will explain the delay they've been expecting." That's the secret of good deception. Never tell a lie that contradicts the enemy's assumptions. Tell one that embraces them. Across the channel, the German high command pores over intelligence that seems too perfect, too detailed, too consistent. The 1st U.S. Army Group appears enormous. Its radio traffic is constant, its divisions are listed on Allied paperwork, and its fictional commander, Patton, has a reputation so aggressive that it confirms what the Germans believe must be coming. In Hitler's Wolfschanze headquarters in East Prussia, the Führer himself studies a map. His finger presses firmly on the Pas de Calais. He mutters to his generals, "This is where the main blow will fall. It must." His certainty becomes doctrine, and fortitude thrives on that doctrine. Back in England, the machinery of deception grinds on. In a barn outside Canterbury, a team of British actors rehearses the dialect of American infantry. They're part of a strange, secret project. Voice doubles who will stand near microphones and imitate conversations of U.S. officers. Their practiced drawls fill the air. General Patton wants the divisions rerouted. Supplies, arriving from Bristol tonight. We should be ready by August. Every line is scripted by Strangeway's staff, then fed into the radio traffic that German listening posts can intercept. Nothing is left to chance. Down the road, real American GIs joke as they haul crates labeled Rations, 1st U.S. Army Group, into warehouses. The labels are fake. The supplies will be reused by actual units elsewhere, but everything about the movement is choreographed to look genuine. A truck pulls up, delivering stacks of forged field orders on authentic U.S. Army paper stock. Clerks study the fonts, the signatures, the stamps. One sergeant carefully crumples a copy before tossing it onto the floor where German spies might be able to find it. Not all deceptions are electronic. Some are meant to be touched. As midday approaches, a light rain begins. Puddles form around the staging area where inflatable trucks sit in rows. 2 British soldiers stand smoking beneath a tarp, staring at a half-inflated fuel truck sagging like a dying whale. "Think Jerry'll fall for this?" one asks. "Mate," the other replies, flicking ash. "He already has." A jeep skids into the mud. Colonel Strangeways steps out, coat flapping in the wind. "New orders," he calls out to the supervisors. "Increase vehicle density on the Dover Ridge. Luftwaffe recon made a pass this morning. We need a heavier footprint." He points toward the horizon. "And get the radar spoofers running again tonight. I want the Germans thinking we're moving more divisions inland." Everyone snaps into motion. Evening settles over the countryside. Clouds roll in, and the first German reconnaissance aircraft of the day wings its way toward Kent. On the ground, the fake army sits perfectly still. Lights flick on beneath canvas tents. Campfires glow. Figures move in silhouette. But the tents are empty. The fires are staged. The figures are cardboard cutouts swaying gently in the breeze. The German pilot takes photographs. Satisfied. This is exactly the massive build-up they feared. Night falls in Berlin. A coded message arrives from Garbeau's network, another breathless report of Allied divisions massing near Dover. Minutes later, it reaches Hitler. He nods, triumphant. They are preparing for Calais. He orders the 15th Army, the strongest German force in France, not to move, not to reinforce Normandy, not to respond to any diversions. His mind is made up, and the Allies have made sure he believes the lie. June 5, 1944, Portsmouth Naval Base. A low fog rolls in from the Channel, swallowing the lights of the anchored invasion fleet. The docks groan under the weight of thousands of soldiers, vehicles, and crates stacked to the sky. The metallic scent of salt water mixes with diesel fumes and wet rope. Everything is in motion. Everything is humming. But not here. In a secured warehouse just beyond the main staging area, behind a locked steel door and a guard who checks every badge twice, lies the quiet heart of Operation Fortitude. Inside, a half-circle of officers stands around a long table where communication specialists, intelligence analysts, and deception planners crowd over radios and teleprinters. A single clock ticks loudly on the wall. Colonel Strangeways enters the room, brushing rain from his shoulders. His eyes move across the table, then land on the operator at the end. Headphones on, fingers poised over a keyset. "Any movement from the Luftwaffe?" Strangeways asks. "None, sir. Cloud cover is still thick over the Channel. They won't see a thing tonight." Good. The Germans think they're waiting for the real invasion near Calais. They've convinced themselves that Normandy is a diversion, and Fortitude is about to make them believe that diversion has begun. Strangeways taps a stack of orders on the table. "All right, begin sending the Calais traffic." The operator nods. A chorus of clicks and taps fills the room as fake radio signals begin pouring into the night. Signals that indicate movement of fictional divisions, sudden fuel shortages for Patton's tanks, preparations for a major bombardment near the Strait of Dover. On the other side of the building, a team of RAF officers double-checks flight plans for Operation Taxable and Operation Glimmer, the airborne radar deception missions that will unfold in just a few hours. Their aircraft will drop strips of metallic foil, window, in carefully spaced intervals to mimic the radar signature of an enormous armada heading toward Pas-de-Calais. Not Normandy. Not the beaches where the real troops are already boarding landing craft. Calais. Always Calais. Night deepens. Rain patters softly on the warehouse roof. Just a few miles away, aboard the battleship HMS Warspite, sailors stand ready as engines thrum beneath their feet. In the distance, the horns of transport ships echo through the fog. But inside the deception center, no one reacts to the sounds of the fleet. Their war is a quieter one, fought through illusions. A door swings open and a courier hurries in, clutching a damp envelope. "For Colonel Strangeways," he calls out. Strangeways snatches it, breaks the seal, and unfolds the thin sheet of paper. The room watches him. He reads. His jaw tightens. Then, slowly, he smiles. "It's from Bletchley Park," he announces. "We've intercepted a message from the German 15th Army. They're reporting no sign of an invasion in Normandy, and they've ordered their reserve Panzer divisions to remain near Calais." A ripple of relief and disbelief moves through the room. "They're buying it," one officer whispers. "They're not just buying it," Strangeways replies. "They're doubling down on it." Meanwhile, farther north, in a farmhouse safe house lit only by candlelight, Pujol, Garbo, prepares his next move. His wife and child sleep upstairs, unaware of the scale of the operation that depends on this thin, weary man and his typewriter. He begins composing his most important message yet. A report warning the Germans that a small diversionary landing may occur in Normandy, but only to distract from the true blow at Calais. He taps carefully, methodically, making sure that his message contains just the right balance of truth and deception. A decoy landing, a feint. Nothing more. He finishes typing, signs it with his designated code, and hands it to the MI5 signal operator waiting by the window. When they read this, Pujol says quietly. They will believe that Normandy is merely the opening act. The operator nods. And they'll ignore the real landings. Pujol leans back, exhausted. The candle flickers. Shadows dance on the walls like silhouettes of soldiers marching toward a future that depends entirely on lies. Midnight approaches. Along the southern coast of England, thousands of landing craft begin moving out. Engines roar softly through the fog. Soldiers whisper to each other as they check their gear one last time. The Channel, dark and rolling, waits patiently for them. But in the German command posts from Boulogne to the Pas de Calais, teleprinters chatter, delivering Garbeau's latest messages. Officers read them and nod grimly. So it begins, one mutters. The diversionary landings. They do not move their divisions. They do not alert their defensive commanders in Normandy. They prepare for Calais, because fortitude has told them to. At 2:30 a.m., Strangeways stands alone outside the warehouse as the distant thunder of engines rattles the night. A cold wind cuts across the docks, carrying with it the faint echoes of an invasion force slipping away into the darkness. Behind him, the deception center continues broadcasting fake messages. Actors read lines into microphones. Radar signals misdirect the enemy. Pujol's lies race across Europe, and Strangeways whispers to himself, "This is it. Hold them at Calais. Just a little longer." Out at sea, the lights of the invasion fleet vanish into the fog. D-Day has begun, and Hitler is still staring at the wrong beach. June 6, 1944. Or for 30 hours, Normandy coast, the first Allied landing craft punch through the surf under a sky ripped open by artillery flashes. Machine gun fire tears across the water as troops crouch low, clutching their rifles, waiting for the ramp to drop. The invasion has begun, but hundreds of miles away, in the German command post at Tourcoing, headquarters of the 15th Army. The atmosphere is strangely calm. Officers pace around maps of the Pas de Calais, not Normandy. Phones ring. Cigarettes burn down to the filter. They've received reports of landings, but they don't believe this is the invasion. A major slams the receiver down and mutters, "A diversionary assault. They'll strike at Calais once we commit reserves." He circles the Calais region with a pencil as if reinforcing gravity itself. The trap holds. Back across the Channel, at MI5 headquarters in London, the double-cross room is buzzing. Operators huddle around teleprinters, watching decrypted German messages pour in. The tension is suffocating. Every second counts. Finally, one operator gasps. "Sir, message from the German High Command." Tar Robertson grabs the printout with trembling fingers. His eyes jump across the page, scanning the German response to the Normandy landings. Then he laughs, loudly, unexpectedly, almost hysterically. "They think it's a feint," he shouts. "Hitler still believes Calais is the target." The room erupts in a mixture of relief and disbelief. Some officers cheer, others collapse into chairs, exhaling weeks of tension in a single breath. Operation Fortitude has worked. The greatest deception in the history of warfare has succeeded in its most crucial moment. Meanwhile, aboard a Luftwaffe reconnaissance plane soaring high above the Channel, the pilot peers through the clouds. Radar operators track what looks like a massive fleet heading toward the Pas de Calais, even hours after the real armada has hit Normandy. This phantom force is the work of RAF 617 Squadron and other deception units, dropping thousands of strips of window in precise formations. The German radar screens show a fleet that doesn't exist. Commanders react immediately. "Patience," they instruct their coastal batteries. "Hold your fire. The main fleet is approaching Calais." They hold back their guns. They hold back their divisions. They hold back the very forces that could crush the Allied landings. And every minute they wait, the real soldiers storming Omaha, Utah, Gold, Juno, and Sword push further inland. By mid-morning, reports from Normandy grow impossible to ignore. German officers curse as they realize the scale of the Allied attack, but the decision remains unchanged. Hitler issues a direct order. Do not redeploy the 15th Army. Calais remains the enemy's objective. He is convinced that Patton, his imagined nemesis, has not yet struck. He is convinced that the Normandy landings are a trick. He is convinced of a lie Britain has spent months crafting. In a bunker near Calais, Panzer crews wait beside their tanks, engines cold, weapons clean. Officers bark instructions to remain ready, to expect the real landing at any moment. They stare north toward the Channel, toward the horizon where they expect to see Patton's mighty army. All they see is fog. In Kent, the ghost army sits silent on its fields. Rubber tanks glistening with dew, wooden landing craft creaking in the early breeze, mannequins still posed by campfires long since cold. Not a single soldier moves among them, because there are no soldiers. Just props, just illusions, just the echoes of a force that never existed. And yet, this silent, empty landscape has tied down over 20 German divisions. It has held them in place. It has paralyzed their response. It has given the real Allied invasion the time it needs to survive. By dusk on D-Day, Allied forces have secured beachheads across Normandy. Casualties are heavy, the fighting bitter, but the foothold is real and unshakable. In Berlin, news begins to filter through that the diversion is not retreating. Garbo sends another carefully crafted message, warning that the main invasion has not yet begun and that the Normandy landings are only a preliminary thrust. Hitler believes him. He orders the 15th Army to remain in place for weeks. And so the German armor that could have swallowed the beachheads never arrives. The divisions that could have crushed the Allied foothold never move. The reinforcements that could have turned D-Day into a bloody disaster never come. Operation Fortitude has done its work. A lie, built from inflatable tanks, forged radio traffic, phantom divisions, and a network of double agents, has saved tens of thousands of Allied lives. Late that night, back in the Deception Center at Portsmouth, Colonel Strangeways stands alone by the water's edge. The fog has lifted. The lamps along the docks flicker gently in the breeze. In the distance, the Channel stretches out like a dark, endless void. Somewhere beyond it, thousands of soldiers fight through the hedgerows of Normandy. He lights a cigarette and watches its ember glow. All the ghosts, all the illusions, all the shadows cast across England. They had done their job, and Hitler, convinced by the picture the Allies painted, looked toward Calais while the liberation of Europe began behind his back. Strangeways takes a drag, exhales the smoke into the night, and whispers to himself, "Let the truth land where the lies have cleared the way."